I'm Emma, and I'll never erase the memory of the day my cousins shredded my heart, their laughter ringing as they branded me undesirable in front of everyone I held dear. It was a balmy July afternoon, the sun lounging low in a clear sky, the scent of charcoal and grilling burgers wafting through the air. My family's yearly barbecue buzzed with life at my aunt's sprawling backyard in suburban Connecticut. String lights glimmered faintly against the daylight, kids darted across the lawn in bursts of joy, and adults gathered around picnic tables, trading tales and sipping tart lemonade. I was 29, still carving my own path, and I'd driven 3 hours to be there, craving a day of warmth, maybe a sliver of belonging. Instead, I stumbled into a war zone where I was the prey, and the ammunition was words jagged and cruel, cutting deeper than any blade. My roots lie in a big, boisterous family Italian, from my mom Irish from my dad. We're the type who hug too tightly, bicker over marinara sauce secrets, and never let you forget your rung on the family ladder. I'm the middle child, caught between my older sister Sophia, the shining star who married at 25 and birthed 2 flawless kids, and my younger brother Luca, the roguish charmer everyone dotes on. Me, I've always been the quiet dreamer, the girl lost in notebooks sketching app designs. Instead of chasing romance or dreaming of white dresses, I'd built a life I valued: a modest graphic design job, a cozy Boston apartment, a handful of loyal friends. But to my family, I was Emma, the one still figuring it out. Single, no kids, and somehow in their gaze diminished. That day, I wore my favorite sundress, pale yellow dotted with tiny daisies along the hem, hoping it'd lift my spirit, make me feel bright. I'd spent the morning taming my curly brown hair, nervous fingers smoothing it down, wanting to look polished, worthy of their approval. I arrived with a homemade tiramisu, my mom's treasured recipe, and a smile I'd rehearsed in the car mirror. I longed to fit in, to feel seen. But as I stepped onto the grass tray, balanced in my hands, I caught my cousin Gina's laugh, sharp taunting, aimed like an arrow at me. Gina's 32, married to a dentist, a toddler in tow, and a McMansion to boast. She's the queen bee of my cousins, always armed with a barb. Emma still going solo. Huh, she shouted loud enough to turn heads my aunts, uncles, even the kids, froze mid-tag. My face flushed heat, crawling up my neck, but I forced a chuckle, trying to deflect. Yeah, you know me, just living my life, I said, setting the tiramisu on the weathered picnic table. Gina wasn't finished. She leaned toward my cousin Maria, 28, and newly engaged, and hissed in a mock whisper. She's pushing 30 with no ring. I mean, who'd even want her? She's basically a ghost. Maria snickered her gaze, flicking to me a blend of pity and glee in her eyes. My heart plummeted a cold weight in my chest. I scanned the yard, desperate for a rescue. My mom was fussing over the grill, adjusting the coals with a frown. My dad was lost in a loud tale about his latest fishing haul. And Sophia, my radiant sister, glowed as she rocked her baby, soaking up praise. Sophia's got it all locked down. My Aunt Carla gushed her smile wide. A husband, kids, a real family. You're a gem, sweetheart. Sophia beamed, basking in the light, while I stood there shrinking the tiramisu, trembling in my unsteady grip. I wanted to vanish. Undesirable and ghost echoed in my mind, each word a fresh wound, tearing deeper with every repeat. I'd heard the jabs before, subtle pokes at Thanksgiving, sly digs at Christmas, but this was raw, unfiltered, a public execution before 30 people who were supposed to be my safe haven. My throat closed and tears pricked my eyes, hot and insistent, but I blinked them back, refusing to break. I mumbled something about needing a drink and slipped behind the house where the chatter faded to a low drone. I pressed myself against the cool brick wall, my breath ragged, my fists clenched tight. Why did they despise me for being myself? Why was my value chained to a ring, a man, a life I hadn't picked yet? I'd poured years into my dreams, my designs, my apps, but to them I was a shadow, a nothing. I traced my life in my mind, the pieces I'd hidden even from myself at times. I'd always been the oddball, the girl who coded instead of cooked, who stayed up late imagining apps to help people rather than plotting a wedding. Growing up, my dad would tease Emma when you bringing a guy home. My mom would sigh, "You're too choosy, hun." I'd laugh, brush it off, but each remark chipped at my core, leaving fractures I couldn't mend. In high school, I was the artsy one, never the belle of the ball. In college, I buried myself in my computer, science minor, not party nights. Now at 29, I was still the one they pitied, the one they measured and found wanting. I wiped my eyes staring at the patchy grass and wondered if they were right. Was I unlovable? Was I doomed to be alone, a letdown in their eyes? But there was a secret. They didn't know, a truth I'd guarded for months. I'd been seeing someone remarkable. His name was Julian, a reclusive tech billionaire. 34, brilliant and gentle, with a quiet fire that set my pulse racing. We'd met by chance at a tech conference in Boston, where I'd pitched a prototype for a mental health app I'd poured my soul into. He'd found me after his dark eyes, warm, his voice soft, as he said, "Emma, that was extraordinary. You've got something special." We'd talked for hours then, days then months, clandestine dates, midnight calls, moments that felt like a fairy tale. He was private, elusive, shunning the public eye, and I'd honored that, shielding him from my family's mess. But as I stood there, my cousin's words searing my skin, I questioned what Julian saw in me that they missed. Did I even deserve someone like him? The barbecue hummed on laughter, the clink of glasses, the hiss of meat on the grill. I drew a shaky breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I wasn't ready to face them again, not yet. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I fished it out my chest, fluttering as Julian's name glowed on the screen. "Hey, you okay?" his text read. I stared, fingers trembling over the keys. I ached to spill it all, the shame, the pain, the way my family shrank me to nothing. But I held back. "Rough day," I typed my vision, blurring with unshed tears. "Miss you." His reply flashed back fast. "I'm here for you. Always." I shut my eyes, clinging to those words like a raft in a storm, a faint glow of hope amid the wreckage of my spirit. I had no clue then, but that day was the spark of something bigger. The hurt my cousins inflicted, the way they flayed me open, before everyone would launch me on a journey I never saw coming. I'd spent so long feeling small less than, but something stirred inside, a quiet resolve, a ember of rebellion. I wasn't a ghost, I wasn't unlovable, and soon they'd see the truth. I leaned against the wall, the brick cool against my back, and let the sounds of the party wash over me. The kids shouted, the grill sizzled, and somewhere Gina's laugh cut through again, sharp as ever. I gripped my phone, Julian's words a lifeline, and felt the first faint pulse of something new, courage maybe, or defiance. I wasn't done yet. The air grew warmer, the sun dipping lower, casting golden streaks across the yard. I thought of all the times I'd swallowed, my hurt smiled through the jabs, let their judgment define me. My cousins saw a single woman, a failure, but I was more than that. I'd built something, my designs, my app, a vision for a future where I mattered. And Julian, he saw it too. He saw me. My chest ached, a mix of grief and hope, as I stood there hidden from their eyes. I wanted to scream, to tell them they were wrong, but words wouldn't come. Not yet. I took another breath, slower this time, and felt the weight shift just a little. I wasn't ready to go back, to face their smirks and pity, but I knew one thing: I wouldn't let them break me. Have you ever been judged like that, boxed in by people who should lift you up? Felt like your worth was measured by someone else's ruler? I did, and that day behind my aunt's house, with the sting of my cousin's words still fresh, I started to fight back. I didn't know how, not yet, but the fire was there, small but growing. I'd show them, I'd show myself, and maybe, just maybe, I'd find the strength to rise. I stood there, pressed against the brick wall behind my aunt's house, the barbecue's noise, a distant roar in my ears. My heart pounded a wild drumbeat, and my cousin's words, undesirable, a ghost, clawed at me, relentless like a storm I couldn't outrun. The air felt thick heavy, with the scent of grilled meat and summer grass. And I gripped my phone, Julian's text glowing like a faint beacon. I'm here for you. Always. I wanted to believe it, to cling to that promise, but the hurt was raw, a gaping wound in my chest. I slid down the wall, my yellow sundress catching on the rough brick, and sat on the cool ground, my knees pulled tight to my body. Tears finally broke free, hot and silent, streaming down my face. I didn't sob, no, I wouldn't give them that, but the quiet crying felt like a surrender, a crack in the armor I'd worn for so long. I don't know how long I stayed there, hidden from the party, the laughter and clatter of plates mocking me from the other side. My mind spiraled, replaying every jab, every smirk, Gina's sharp voice, Maria's pitying glance, the way my Aunt Carla had praised Sophia while I stood there invisible. I'd always tried to be enough good daughter, creative soul, the girl who'd rather build something than beg for approval. But that day at 29, I felt like nothing. My family's love came with strings, a checklist I'd never complete. Get married, have kids, fit the mold. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, the salt of my tears bitter, and wondered how I'd let their words sink so deep. Had I been lying to myself, thinking I was okay alone? Was I really a failure, just like they said? The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink, and I felt the weight of every year I'd spent trying to prove myself. I thought of the nights I'd stayed up hunched over my laptop, designing logos, tweaking code for my mental health app, pouring my heart into something I believed could help people. I'd sent pitches to tech companies, faced rejections, kept going. But none of that mattered to them. To my cousins, to my aunts, I was just the single girl, the one who'd never measure up to Sophia's perfect life. My chest ached a dull, throbbing pain, and I pressed my palms to my eyes, trying to push it all away. I wanted to run, grab my keys, leave the tiramisu, and drive back to Boston away from their judgment. But I couldn't, not yet. A soft voice broke through my haze. Emma, sweetie, are you okay? I looked up, blinking through blurry eyes, and saw my grandmother, Nonna Rosa, standing there. She was tiny, barely 5 feet, with silver hair pulled into a bun, and warm brown eyes that always seemed to see right through me. Nonna was my mom's mom, 78 years old, a widow who'd raised 4 kids through hard times after my grandfather died young. She wore a faded floral apron over her dress, her hands dusted with flour from helping in the kitchen. I tried to smile to hide the mess I was, but my lips trembled. I'm fine, Nonna. I lied, my voice cracking. She shook her head slow and knowing, and lowered herself to sit beside me, her joints creaking as she settled on the grass. You're not fine, cara mia, she said, her Italian accent thick, her hand finding mine. Her skin was warm, rough from years of work, and she squeezed gently. I saw what happened. Gina and Maria, they were cruel. I heard it, and I'm ashamed of them. My eyes stung again, and I looked away, the horizon blurring. Nonna had always been my safe place when I was little. She'd sneak me cookies, tell me stories of her childhood in Naples, teach me to roll dough for biscotti. She never judged me, never asked why I wasn't married. Why do they hate me? Nonna, I whispered, my voice small. I'm trying so hard, but it's never enough. They make me feel like I'm nothing. She sighed a deep, weary sound and patted my hand. They don't hate you, Emma. They're small-minded, caught up in their own little worlds. They think a woman's worth is a man and a ring, but that's their failing, not yours. She tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet her gaze. You're a light, my girl. You've got a brain, a heart, dreams bigger than this backyard. I see you even if they don't. Her words wrapped around me like a blanket, soft and warm, but the pain still gnawed. I just wanted to be here, to feel like family. I said, my voice breaking, but I feel so alone. You're not alone, Nonna said firmly. You've got me always. And you've got yourself, don't forget that. You're building something, Emma. I don't understand all this tech stuff, but I see how hard you work. How you light up when you talk about your designs. She smiled, her eyes crinkling. When I was your age, I was a widow, raising kids fighting to keep a roof over our heads. People told me I'd fail, but I didn't. You're fighting too in your own way. Don't let their nonsense dim your fire. I leaned into her, resting my head on her shoulder, her familiar scent of lavender and flower calming me. For the first time that day, I felt a flicker of hope, a tiny thread to hold on to. We sat there, the two of us, the party's noise a faint hum. Nona told me a story one I'd heard a dozen times, but needed then, about how she'd opened a small bakery in the 70s against everyone's advice, baking bread and pastries to feed her family. They called me crazy, a woman alone, she said, chuckling. But I proved them wrong. You will too. I nodded, wiping my face, the tears slowing. I thought of Julian, my secret, the man who believed in me, when I barely believed in myself. I hadn't told Nona about him, hadn't told anyone because it felt too precious, too fragile to share. But her words stirred something, a quiet resolve. Maybe I wasn't as lost as I felt. I helped Nona to her feet, her hand steady in mine, and we walked back toward the barbecue, my heart still heavy but lighter than before. The lawn was alive, kids chasing fireflies. As dusk settled, uncles arguing over the grill. Sophia laughing with her husband. Gina and Maria stood by the dessert table, eyeing my tiramisu. Their giggles quieter now. I braced myself, expecting another jab, but Nona squeezed my arm. Chin up, Kara, she whispered. You're stronger than their words. I nodded, forcing my shoulders back, but inside I was still raw, the hurt pulsing like a bruise. I avoided their gazes, busying myself with a plate, piling on a burger I didn't want just to have something to do. That night, after the drive home, I collapsed on my couch in my tiny Boston apartment, the silence a relief after the day's chaos. My sundress was crumpled, my eyes puffy, but Nona's words echoed. You're a light, my girl. I pulled out my phone, staring at Julian's text again. I wanted to call him, to hear his voice, to tell him how they'd broken me. Instead, I typed, "Can we talk soon? I need you." His reply came in seconds. "Tomorrow 7 p.m., I'll come to you. Hang in there, Emma." I closed my eyes, picturing his face, those dark eyes, that gentle smile, and felt a spark, a promise of something better. I got up restless and opened my laptop, my app designs staring back at me. I'd been working on this project for months. A tool to connect people to mental health resources born from my own quiet struggles. I traced the lines of my sketches, the code I'd labored over, and felt a surge of pride. This was mine, something real, something they couldn't take away. I worked late, the hours slipping by my fingers, flying across the keys. The pain was still there, a shadow in my chest, but Nona was right, I was fighting. I wasn't ready to face my cousins again, not yet. But I could feel the shift, a slow untangling of the knots they'd tied around my heart. As I crawled into bed, the moonlight spilling through my window, I thought of the road ahead. I didn't know how I'd prove them wrong, how I'd make them see me, but I knew I had to try. Nona believed in me, Julian believed in me, and maybe, just maybe, I could believe in myself. The hurt still burned, but it was fuel now, a fire to push me forward. Have you ever felt that kind of pain, the kind that makes you question everything? And have you found someone, a grandmother, a friend who saw the real you when no one else did? I was starting to, and that was enough to keep me going. I woke up the next morning in my small Boston apartment, the weight of the barbecue still pressing on my chest like a stone I couldn't lift. The memory of my cousin's laughter, Gina's sharp undesirable, Maria's snickering ghost haunted me, replaying in a loop that made my stomach twist. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the faint hum of traffic outside my window, a dull backdrop to my thoughts. My yellow sundress lay crumpled on the floor, a reminder of the day I'd tried to feel bright only to be dimmed. But Nona Rose's words clung to me too. You're a light, my girl. I wanted to believe her, to hold on to that spark. But the hurt was still fresh, a raw ache that pulsed with every breath. I rolled over, checking my phone. Julian's text glowed, tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll come to you. Hang in there, Emma. Today was that tomorrow. and the thought of seeing him stirred a fragile hope in me. I dragged myself out of bed, my body heavy, and shuffled to the kitchen. My apartment was tiny, peeling paint on the walls, a second-hand couch, a rickety table where I'd spent countless nights working, but it was mine, a sanctuary from the world's judgment. I brewed coffee, the bitter scent filling the air, and sat with my mug staring at my laptop. My mental health app, my passion project, waited, their half-finished code and sketches I'd poured my soul into. It was messy, imperfect, but it was me a dream to help people like me. People who felt alone, unseen. I opened it, my fingers hesitating, and then started typing, losing myself in the lines of code. For a few hours, the pain faded, drowned out by the rhythm of creation, the quiet thrill of building something real. But the hurt crept back, sneaky and cold. I thought of Sophia, my sister, glowing at the barbecue. Her life a picture of everything my family valued. Husband, kids, stability. I didn't resent her. I loved her, her laugh, her kindness. But the comparisons stung, a silent message that I'd never measure up. I pictured Gina and Maria, their smug grins, and my chest tightened. I set the coffee down, my hands shaking, and paced the room. Why did their words have so much power? Why did I let them make me feel small? I stopped by the window, gazing at the gray Boston street, below people hurrying through their lives. I felt stuck, caught between who I was and who they wanted me to be, and the gap felt like a chasm I'd never cross. The day dragged on, slow and heavy. I tried to work, but my focus splintered my thoughts, drifting to the barbecue, to years of quiet jabs. My dad's teasing, "When you bringing a guy home?" My mom's sighs, "You're too choosy, hon." I'd laughed it off, but each one had lodged in me, a splinter under my skin. I sank onto the couch, hugging a pillow, and let the tears come again. Slow, quiet, a release I couldn't stop. I hated feeling weak, but the weight of their judgment was crushing me. I wanted to scream, to tell them I was enough, but the words stayed locked in my throat. My phone buzzed, a text from Nonna. "You're stronger than you know, Kara. Call me if you need me." I smiled through the blur, her love a lifeline, but the ache lingered. As the clock ticked towards 7 p.m., my heart lifted, a nervous flutter, replacing the dread. Julian was coming. I hadn't told anyone about him, not Nonna, not my best friend, no one. He was my secret, a quiet joy I'd guarded for months. We'd met at that tech conference, his quiet confidence drawing me in, his belief in my app lifting me up. Our dates were simple coffee, in hidden cafes walks. Along the Charles River, late-night talks about dreams and fears. He was different, a tech billionaire who shunned the spotlight, who saw the world in code and possibility, just like me. I tidied my apartment, my hands busy with dishes, fluffing pillows, anything to calm the storm inside. I changed into jeans and a soft blue sweater, hoping I looked okay, hoping he'd still see me, even broken. At 7 p.m. sharp, a knock came. I opened the door and there was Julian, tall, lean, his dark hair slightly messy, his eyes warm and steady. He wore a simple gray jacket, unassuming, but his presence filled the room, a quiet strength that made my breath catch. "Emma," he said, his voice soft, and pulled me into a hug. I melted into him, his arms solid, safe, the scent of cedar and soap grounding me. "You've been crying," he said, pulling back. To look at me, his brow creased with worry. I knotted my throat tight and led him to the couch. We sat, his hand finding mine, and I felt the dam break, the words tumbling out. "They humiliated me, Julian," I said, my voice shaky. "My cousins at the barbecue. They called me undesirable, a ghost, right in front of everyone. They laughed and no one stopped them. They think I'm nothing because I'm not married, no kids, not like my sister." Tears spilled again, and I hated myself for it, but Julian didn't flinch. He listened, his thumb tracing circles on my hand, his eyes never leaving mine. "I've tried so hard," I went on. "My designs, my app. I'm building something, but they don't see it. They don't see me." My voice cracked, and I buried my face in my hands. The shame and hurt, pouring out like a flood. Julian pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me, his chin resting on my head. "Emma, I'm so sorry," he murmured. "They're wrong. You're not nothing. You're brilliant, kind, incredible. Your app, your vision, it's going to change lives. I see you and I'm in awe of you." His words sank in a balm to the wounds, and I clung to him, my sobs softening. He held me steady and patient until my breathing slowed. "You don't need their approval," he said, his voice firm. "You're enough just as you are. And I'm here, okay? We're in this together." I looked up, his eyes so earnest, and felt a warmth spread through me, a crack of light in the dark. We talked for hours, the night stretching on. I told him about Nona, her belief in me, her stories of fighting through doubt. Julian smiled, his hand still in mine. "She sounds like a force, like you." He paused, then said, "Emma, I've been meaning to tell you I've got a meeting next week. Investors for a new project. I'd love your input, your designs. You're a genius with this stuff." My heart leapt, a mix of fear and excitement. Me helping a tech billionaire, I'd love to. I said, my voice small but steady. He grinned, and for the first time that day, I felt a flicker of pride, a sense I could be more. We ordered pizza, the box sitting open on my coffee table, and talked about lighter things, his quirky love of old sci-fi movies, my obsession with blueberry muffins. Laughter came tentative at first, then real, and the weight in my chest eased just a little. Julian stayed late, and when he left, he hugged me again, his lips brushing my forehead. "You've got this, Emma," he said. "You're stronger than you think." I watched him go the door, closing softly, and felt something shift, a quiet determination, a seed of belief. I crawled into bed, exhausted but different, the hurt still there but softer, less sharp. The next morning I woke early, the sky pale and gray. I opened my laptop, my app, staring back, and dove in, my fingers flying. I thought of Nona's bakery, her fight, and Julian's faith in me. I wasn't okay, not yet, but I was moving step by shaky step. The pain from the barbecue lingered, a bruise I'd carry, but it was fuel now, pushing me to prove them wrong. I worked all day refining my code, sketching new features, losing myself in the dream. I texted Nona thanking her, and she replied, "Keep going, Kara. You're my star." I smiled, my heart lifting, and kept going. Have you ever felt that shift, that moment when the hurt starts to turn into strength? When someone's belief in you, a grandmother, a partner, lights a fire you didn't know you had? I was finding mine, and I wasn't going to stop. I woke up the next day with a new kind of energy, a fragile but stubborn spark flickering in my chest. The sting of my cousin's words, undesirable, a ghost still lingered, a dull ache that flared when I let my mind wander to that barbecue. But Julian's voice, soft and certain, echoed too. "You're brilliant, Emma. I'm in awe of you." And Nona Rosa's fierce belief, "You're a light, my girl," carried me like a current. I rolled out of bed in my tiny Boston apartment, the morning light streaming through the window, painting my cluttered desk in gold. My laptop sat there, my mental health app, a work in progress, a piece of me I'd poured my heart into. For the first time in days, I felt a pull to keep going, to fight through the hurt, and build something bigger than their judgment. I brewed coffee, the rich aroma filling the air, and sat down to work. My fingers danced across the keys, refining code, tweaking the app's interface. A clean design with soft blues and gentle prompts to guide users to resources, to hope. I'd started this project after nights of feeling alone, wanting to create a tool for people like me, people the world overlooked. Hours slipped away, the pain of Gina and Maria's laughter fading as I lost myself in the rhythm of creation. My phone buzzed, Julian texting, "Can't wait to see your designs tonight. You've got this." My heart leapt, a mix of nerves and excitement. He'd asked for my input on his investor meeting, a chance to step into his world, and I felt the weight of it, the thrill of being seen. That evening, Julian arrived at my door, his dark eyes bright, a laptop bag slung over his shoulder. He wore a simple black sweater, his quiet confidence steadying me as I let him in. We sat on my couch, pizza boxes from the night before, still scattered on the table, and I showed him my sketches wireframes for his project, a wellness platform to pair with my app. My voice shook at first, nervous to share, but he leaned in, nodding his gaze intense. "Emma, this is incredible," he said, tracing a line on my screen. "The way you blend function and feeling, it's unique. The investors will love this." My cheeks warmed, a flush of pride breaking through the doubt. For once, I felt capable, like I belonged in this dream. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into work, a fire growing inside me. Julian and I met often, brainstorming late into the night, our ideas weaving together, his tech expertise, my design touch. He'd laugh at my quirky sketches, and I'd tease him for his terrible coffee-making skills, our bond deepening with every shared moment. I still carried the barbecue's scars, the memory of my family's dismissal, but I channeled it, pouring the hurt into my app. I stayed up late, eyes burning, perfecting a feature, a chat tool for users. To connect anonymously, a safe space I wished I'd had. One night, I tested it, typing a message to myself, "You are enough." Seeing it on the screen, I choked up a quiet victory over the voices that called me less. Then came a breakthrough. I'd been submitting my app to tech competitions a long shot, but one morning an email arrived. "Congratulations, Emma. Your app, Lumen, is a finalist in the Innovate Wellness Challenge. Present at our Boston Gala in 2 weeks." My heart raced, my hands trembling as I read it again. A finalist me, the girl my cousins, mocked on a stage with tech leaders, a $50,000 grant on the line. I called Nona first, my voice shaking. "Cara mia, I knew it." She cried, her pride wrapping around me through the phone. "You're shining now, my star." I texted Julian, and he replied, "I'm so proud of you. We're celebrating tonight." I sat there, tears in my eyes, a mix of joy and disbelief. This was real, my work, my fight seen at last. I spent days preparing, my nerves a tangle, but my resolve stronger. I designed slides, practiced my pitch in front of my mirror. My reflections staring back, curly hair, wild eyes, bright. The girl in the yellow sundress growing into someone new. Julian helped, coaching me through stumbles, his belief, a steady hand. "You've got a gift, Emma," he said one night, his voice warm. "They'll see it." I do. I smiled, my heart full, the pain of my family's words softening, replaced by a quiet strength. I wasn't just the single girl anymore. I was Emma, building something that mattered. The night of the gala arrived, and I stood in my apartment, staring at myself in a simple black dress, elegant but bold. My hands shaking as I clasped a silver necklace Nona had given me years ago, a tiny star pendant, a symbol of her faith in me. Julian picked me up, his eyes lighting up as he saw me. "You look amazing," he said, and I felt it just for a moment. We drove to the venue, a sleek Boston ballroom, chandeliers, glittering tech founders and investors mingling in suits and gowns. I gripped my note cards, my stomach churning, but Julian squeezed my hand. "You're ready?" he whispered, and I nodded, drawing a deep breath. On stage, the lights were blinding the crowd, a sea of faces. I started shaky, my voice trembling as I introduced Lumen, my app, born from nights of doubt, a tool to lift others up. But then I found my rhythm, speaking from my heart. I created Lumen for anyone who's felt unseen, unheard, told they're not enough. I said, my voice steadying. It's a light in the dark, a way to connect, to heal. I shared my stats, user flows, early tests, and my vision, the crowd leaning in, nodding. When I finished, applause erupted warm and loud, and I felt a rush, a tide of pride washing away the shame. I'd done it, stood tall, claimed my space. Offstage, judges shook my hand, a tech blogger asked for an interview, and Julian hugged me, his grin wide. "You were phenomenal, Emma," he said, and I laughed, tears pricking my eyes, a weight lifting. I didn't win the grant, another app took it, but the feedback was glowing, innovative, heartfelt, a game changer. I drove home with Julian, my heart soaring, the city lights blurring past. For the first time, I saw myself not through my cousin's eyes, but my own, a woman fighting, rising, becoming. Back in my apartment, I kicked off my heels, the star necklace cool against my skin. I called Nona, telling her everything, her cheers echoing through the phone. My brave girl, she said, and I felt it brave strong enough. The hurt from the barbecue still lingered a faint echo, but it didn't define me anymore. I was moving forward step by step, my app gaining traction, my confidence growing. Julian sat beside me, his hand in mine, and I felt a future opening, one I'd build on my terms. I looked at my laptop, Lumen's interface glowing, and smiled. I was no ghost, I was here, real and rising. Have you ever had a moment where you stepped into your own light, where you proved to yourself you could do it? Who was there to cheer you on, to remind you of your worth? I had Nona Julian, and now, slowly, I was finding me. I stood in my tiny Boston apartment, the morning sun spilling through the window, casting a warm glow across my desk, where my laptop hummed with life. The gala was a week behind me, but the rush of standing on that stage, pouring my heart into Lumen, my mental health app still pulsed through me. The applause, the judges' kind words, innovative, heartfelt, a game changer, had lit a fire in me, one that drowned out the echoes of my cousin's cruel taunts from the barbecue, undesirable, a ghost. I wasn't that girl anymore, not entirely. Nona Rosa's fierce belief. You're a light, my girl, and Julian's steady encouragement, you're brilliant. Emma carried me forward. I felt stronger, like I was finally stepping into a version of myself I'd always longed to be. I sipped my coffee, the bitter warmth grounding me, and opened my laptop. Emails flooded in, feedback from the gala, a few beta testers raving about Lumen, even a small tech blog asking for a follow-up. My heart raced, a mix of joy and nerves. I'd poured everything into this app, nights of doubt and hope, woven into its code, its soft blue design, a lifeline for anyone feeling lost, like I'd felt for so long. I replied to each message, my fingers steady, my words confident. Then came the big one, an invite to a tech incubator in Boston, a 3-month program with mentors funding a chance to scale Lumen into something real. I stared at the screen, my breath catching. This could be it, my shot to turn my dream into a force. I called Julian, my voice trembling with excitement. They want me in the incubator. Julian, me, my app. He laughed, his warmth crackling through the phone. Emma, I'm not surprised. You're a genius. Say yes, we'll make this huge. I grinned, my chest swelling, and texted Nona next. Cara mia, my star. She replied, her pride a balm to the old wounds. I applied that day, my hands shaking as I hit send, a leap of faith in myself. Days later, the acceptance came. Welcome, Emma, to the Boston TechWorks incubator. I danced around my apartment, laughter bubbling up, the girl in the yellow sundress from the barbecue fading, replaced by someone bold alive. The incubator was intense, a co-working space, buzzing with coders, designers, dreamers like me. I walked in that first day, my star necklace from Nona, cool against my skin, wearing jeans and a blazer, nerves twisting in my gut. The mentors were sharp ex-founders and tech gurus, and my cohort was a mix of brilliant minds. A guy building a green energy tool, a woman coding AI for education. I felt small at first, the old doubts whispering, "You're not enough." But I pushed them down, picturing Gina and Maria's smirks, and channeled that hurt into focus. I pitched Lumen, my voice steady, my slides, glowing with my vision, connection, healing, hope. The room nodded, a mentor scribbled notes, and one said, Emma, this has heart and scale. Let's grow it. I walked out, my head high, a quiet triumph blooming. Weeks flew by, a blur of late nights and breakthroughs. I refined Lumen, adding a journal feature, a resource map, tweaking the code until my eyes burned. Julian came by, often bringing takeout, brainstorming with me, under the incubator's harsh lights. You're killing it, he'd say. His dark eyes bright, and I'd blush, feeling seen. One night he lingered, his hand brushing mine. Emma, I'm so proud of you, he said, his voice soft. You're not just building an app, you're building a legacy. My heart thumped, a warmth spreading through me. He believed in me, and slowly I was believing too. The pain of my family's words still lingered a faint scar, but it fueled me, pushing me to prove I was more. Then came a surprise. A mentor, Sarah, a tough but kind woman in her 40s, pulled me aside. "Emma, your app's got traction. We're nominating you for a feature in Tech Trend Weekly, a rising star profile." I froze, my pulse racing. "Me a rising star?" She smiled. Your story, your app. It's inspiring. Say yes." I nodded, stunned, and called Nona that night, my voice shaking. "They think I'm a star, Nona, like you always said." She laughed, her joy bright. "You've always been one, Kara. Keep shining." Julian took me to dinner, toasting with cheap wine in my tiny kitchen. "To Emma the star," he said, and I laughed, tears pricking my eyes, feeling the weight of doubt lift. The Tech Trend interview was surreal. I sat in a sleek office, a journalist named Lila, asking about Lumen, my journey. I spoke from my heart, my voice steady. "I built this for anyone who's felt invisible, told they're not enough," I said. "I've been their family society, judging me for being me. But I kept going, and Lumen's my way, to help others do the same." Lila nodded, her pen flying, and later the draft came, Emma Russo, the heart. Behind Lumen redefines tech with empathy. Reading it, my chest ached with pride, the girl my cousins mocked nowhere to be seen. I sent it to Nonna, and she called crying, "My girl, you're changing the world." The incubator pushed me harder, pitches, budgets, user tests. I stumbled. Sometimes a coding bug, frustrating me to tears, but Sarah coached me. Julian cheered me on, and I kept going. One night I launched a beta 500 users, signing up, their feedback flooding in. This saved me. I feel seen. I sat on my couch reading each one, tears streaming down my face. This was why I fought, not for my cousins, not for approval, but for this, for people like me. The hurt from the barbecue, the years of feeling less, was fading, replaced by a strength I'd earned step by step. I started seeing myself differently. I'd catch my reflection, curly hair, wild eyes, bright, the star necklace glinting, and smile. I wasn't the girl shrinking behind my aunt's house, crying over their words. I was Emma, a finalist, a rising star, a woman building something real. Julian noticed too. One evening, as we walked along the Charles River, the water glinting under streetlights, he stopped, turning to me. "Emma, you're incredible," he said, his voice low, his hand warm in mine. "You're not just rising, you're soaring." I looked at him, my heart full, and felt a shift, a certainty I was enough, ring or no ring. The incubator's end loomed, a showcase night, approaching, where we'd pitch to investors, tech giants, the public. I poured everything into it, my pitch sharp, my vision clear. I wasn't just fighting for Lumen, I was fighting for me, for the girl my family underestimated. The pain still lingered, a quiet echo, but it drove me a fire in my bones. I clasped Nona's star necklace, thinking of her fight, Julian's belief, and my own heart beating stronger now. I was ready to stand tall, to show the world what I could do. Have you ever felt yourself grow? Felt the moment you stopped hiding and started soaring? Who lifted you up when you needed it most? I had known a Julian, and now I was lifting myself, and I wasn't turning back. I stood in my cramped Boston apartment, the early morning light filtering through the window, casting soft shadows across my desk. The incubator's final showcase was days away, and my nerves buzzed like a live wire, a mix of excitement and fear crackling in my chest. The memory of my cousin's cruel words from the barbecue, undesirable, a ghost, still lingered, a faint sting, but it felt distant now, like a storm that had passed. Nona Rosa's fierce encouragement, "You're a light, my girl," and Julian's steady belief, "You're soaring, Emma," fueled me, pushing me past the hurt. My mental health app Lumen was thriving. Beta users were up to 1,200, their messages pouring in. This helped me breathe again. You've given me hope. Each one mended a piece of me, stitching together the cracks my family's judgment had left. I sipped my coffee, the mug warm in my hands, and stared at my laptop. My pitch for the showcase was nearly ready, slides, polished stats, sharp my vision. For Lumen, clear a lifeline, for the unseen, a tool to heal. The incubator had transformed me, late nights of coding mentors like Sarah, pushing me to think bigger, Julian cheering every step. I wasn't the girl in the yellow sundress, shrinking behind my aunt's house anymore. I clasped Nona's star necklace, its cool weight against my skin, a reminder of her faith, and felt a surge of pride. I was Emma, a rising star, and I was ready to claim my space. The days raced by a blur of preparation. I practiced my pitch in front of my mirror, my voice growing steadier, my curly hair wild, my eyes bright with purpose. Sarah, my mentor, drilled me. Sell the heart, Emma, but back it with numbers. I tweaked my slides, showing Lumen's growth. 80% user retention, 500 daily logins, real impact. Julian came over, takeout bags in hand, and we rehearsed late his feedback, gentle but sharp. "You've got this," he'd say, his dark eyes warm, his hand brushing mine. One night, he lingered, his smile soft. "Emma, you're not just building an app. You're changing lives, including mine." My heart swelled, a quiet joy blooming. He saw me truly, and I was starting to see myself. The showcase night arrived, a crisp evening in a sleek Boston venue. Glass walls, twinkling lights, a crowd of investors, tech moguls, and curious faces. I wore a deep green dress, simple but bold, Nona's star necklace glinting, my hands trembling as I clutched my note cards. Julian squeezed my shoulder backstage, his voice steady. "You're a force, Emma. Shine." I nodded, my breath shaky, and stepped into the spotlight. The room hushed eyes on me, and I felt the old doubts flicker. "You're not enough." I pushed them down, picturing Gina and Maria's smirks, and turned that pain into power. I'm Emma Russo, and I built Lumen for anyone who's felt invisible. I began, my voice clear, ringing out. I've been there, judged, dismissed, told my worth lies in a ring or a role I didn't choose. Lumen's my fight back, a safe space to connect, journal, find help. I clicked through slide stats, flashing user growth, engagement testimonials. We're at 1,200 users, growing daily because no one should feel alone. The crowd leaned in, nodding, a few scribbling notes. My heart pounded, but I spoke from my core, the hurt of the barbecue fueling every word. When I finished, applause roared loud and warm, and I felt a rush, a tide of triumph washing over me. Backstage, investors swarmed, a venture capitalist in a sharp suit, a tech CEO with kind eyes. "Emma, your passion's contagious one," said, handing me a card. "We'd love to fund this $100,000 to start." My jaw dropped, my hands shaking as I took it. Sarah hugged me, grinning. "You nailed it, kid." Julian pulled me close. His whisper in my ear, "I knew you'd soar." I laughed, tears brimming, a weight I'd carried for years lifting. I hadn't just pitched Lumen, I'd claimed my worth right there under those lights. The next day, Tech Trend Weekly ran my profile online. Emma Russo, Lumen's visionary, redefines tech with heart. I read it, my chest tight with pride, and sent it to Nonna. She called, her voice thick with tears. "Cara mia, you're my star, lighting the way." I smiled, the girl my cousins mocked fading, replaced by a woman standing tall. I met with the investors, signing a deal, $100,000 mentorship, a path to launch Lumen wide. I worked harder, hiring a small team, my apartment buzzing with laptops, coffee cups, ideas. Users climbed to 2,000 taller, their messages a lifeline. "Thank you, Emma, for seeing me." I felt different now, stronger. I'd catch my reflection, eyes alive, star necklace shining, and see someone new. Julian noticed too. One evening we sat on my couch, pizza boxes scattered, and he looked at me, his gaze intense. "Emma, you're unstoppable," he said, his hand warm in mine. "I've never met anyone like you." My heart raced, a quiet certainty growing. I was enough, not for my family, not for their rules, but for me, for this life I was building. The barbecue's pain was a shadow, now a spark that had ignited my rise. I started speaking up, sharing my story. A local college asked me to guest lecture, and I stood before students telling them about Lumen, about fighting doubt. "You don't need anyone's permission to be you," I said. my voice firm, and they clapped their eyes bright. I felt powerful, a shift deep in my bones. Nonna sent me a letter, her shaky handwriting full of love. My Emma, you're proof we can rise. Keep going. I tucked it by my desk, a treasure, and worked late, lumen, growing my dream taking shape. One night, Julian took me to dinner, a quiet spot by the river, the water shimmering under moonlight. We laughed, talked dreams, and he paused, his eyes soft. Emma, you've changed me, he said. Your strength, your heart. I'm better because of you. I blushed my chest. Warm, feeling a bond deeper than I'd imagined. I was rising not just for me, but for everyone Lumen touched, for Nonna, for him. The hurt from my family still echoed, faint but real, but it drove me afire I'd tamed to light my way. I lay in bed that night, the star necklace cool against my skin, and thought of the journey, the tears behind my aunt's house, the nights of doubt, the stage where I'd stood tall. I wasn't done, not by a long shot. The showcase, the funding, the users. They were steps, proof I could do this. I was Emma, a dreamer, a fighter, and I was building something bigger than their judgment. Have you ever felt that fire, the one that turns pain into purpose? Who's been your light, pushing you to rise when the world tried to hold you down? I was soaring now, and I wasn't looking back. I stood in my Boston apartment, the late June sun pouring through the window, bathing my desk in a golden glow. My heart raced, a mix of nerves and excitement, as I prepared for the biggest day, yet a launch event for Lumen, my mental health app now backed by investors, and growing fast with 5,000 users and counting. The sting of my cousin's words from that barbecue, undesirable. A ghost still lingered, a faint echo, but I'd turned that pain into fuel, building something real, something that mattered. Nonna Rosa's fierce love. You're a light, my girl, and Julian's unshakable belief. You're unstoppable. Emma had carried me here. I clasped the star necklace Nonna gave me, its cool weight, a steadying force, and felt a surge of pride. I was no longer the girl shrinking in shame. I was Emma, ready to shine. The past months had been a whirlwind, coding late nights, hiring a tiny team, watching Lumen's impact grow. Users wrote to me their words, a lifeline. Your app got me through my darkest day. I'd landed interviews, a podcast feature, even a local news segment calling me Boston's rising tech star. But today was different. My family's annual summer barbecue was happening again, a year after that humiliating day, and I'd been invited to the launch event the same afternoon, a public unveiling at a sleek Boston venue with investors, media, and a surprise I'd kept secret even from Julian. My stomach twisted, the old hurt flaring. Would Gina and Maria laugh again? I pushed the thought away, focusing on the day ahead. I dressed carefully, a sleek navy blazer, white blouse, and fitted pants, professional, but bold, the star necklace glinting against my skin. My curly hair framed my face, my eyes bright with purpose. Julian arrived, his dark eyes warm, a grin spreading as he saw me. Emma, you're a vision, he said, pulling me into a hug, his cedar scent grounding me. We drove to the venue, a modern hall with glass walls, and a buzzing crowd, tech journalists, users, my incubator mentors. I gripped my notes, my heart pounding, but Julian squeezed my hand. You've built this, Emma. Own it. I nodded, drawing a deep breath, ready to step into the light. The event began, the room humming with energy. I took the stage lights bright, the crowd's eyes on me. I'm Emma Russo, and Lumen is my heart. I started, my voice steady, ringing with conviction. A year ago, I felt invisible, judged by those I loved, told I wasn't enough because my path was different. I built Lumen for anyone who's felt that a space to connect, heal, be seen. I shared stats, 5,000 users, 70% daily engagement, and stories. A user's note, Emma, you saved me. The crowd clapped, cameras flashed, and I felt a rush, a tide of triumph. I was no ghost. I was here, real, and they saw me. Then came the twist. I'd planned this for weeks. A secret even Julian didn't know. Today, I'm not just launching Lumen, I said, my voice rising. I'm announcing the Lumen Foundation, a nonprofit, to fund mental health access, starting with a $20,000 grant from our profits. The room erupted cheers and applause shaking the walls. My team beamed Sarah, my mentor nodded proudly, and Julian's jaw dropped, his eyes shining. I stepped off stage, my heart-soaring journalists swarming with questions. Emma, how'd you do this? I smiled with heart and a fight to prove I'm enough. We drove to my aunt's barbecue after my nerves jangling. I hadn't told my family about Lumen's success, the funding, the media buzz. The backyard was familiar, string lights twinkling, the grill sizzling, kids running through the grass. I wore my blazer still, the star necklace a quiet anchor, Julian by my side. As we stepped in, heads turned, whispers rippling. Gina and Maria stood by the picnic table, their eyes widening. My mom hugged me, confused. Emma, you look so fancy. Then Sophia, my sister, smiled. What's going on, sis? I took a breath, my heart racing, and spoke. I've been building something Lumen, a mental health app. We launched today, got funding, started a foundation. I wanted you to know. The yard went quiet, Forks pausing, eyes on me. Gina's face flushed, Maria looked away, and my Aunt Carla stammered, a foundation. I nodded, my voice firm. Yes, I've worked hard. Fought for this, for people who feel unseen, like I did here a year ago. The air shifted heavy with shock. Gina mumbled, we didn't mean, I'm sorry, Emma. Maria nodded, her eyes down. We were wrong. You're amazing. My mom's eyes teared up. Honey, I had no idea. I'm so proud. My dad hugged me, his voice gruff. My girl, you're something else. Sophia squeezed my hand. You're incredible, Em. I felt a weight lift, the hurt from their words a year ago. Easing, not gone, but softer. I didn't need their apologies to feel whole, but hearing them, seeing their shock turn to awe, was a quiet victory. Julian smiled, his hand on my back, and I felt strong, seen. The crowd parted, a distant whir growing louder, a helicopter, its blades cutting the sky. Julian grinned, my turn, Emma. My heart leapt as it landed on a nearby field, dust swirling, my family gaping. Julian took my hand, leading me toward it. The crowd following, stunned. He dropped to one knee, the helicopter's hum fading, the sunset painting us in gold. Emma, he said, his voice steady, eyes locked on mine. You're my light, my inspiration. You've built a legacy, and I want to build one with you. Marry me. He pulled out a box, a diamond ring sparkling, simple, elegant, perfect. Tears streamed down my face, my heart bursting. Yes, I choked out, laughing, crying, as he slid the ring on my finger. The crowd cheered, my family gasping, Gina and Maria's jaws dropped, envy and shock in their eyes. Julian stood pulling me close, his kiss warm, a promise. I turned to my family, the ring glinting, my voice strong. This is Julian, my fiancé, a tech founder who believed in me, and I'm a partner in his company now, building more together. My mom sobbed, hugging us, Emma, I'm so happy. My dad shook Julian's hand, stunned, a helicopter, my girl's a boss. Gina and Maria approached, faces red. We're so sorry. Emma, Gina said, her voice small. You're incredible. We were awful. I looked at them, the hurt still there, but I nodded. Thank you, I said, calm, strong. My victory radiant in the fading light. Have you ever faced those who doubted you? Stood tall and watched them see you for real? What did that moment feel like? That sweet turn when you claimed your worth, I felt it. And I was never going back. I stood in the fading light of my aunt's backyard, the hum of the helicopter, still echoing, the diamond ring on my finger, catching the last rays of the sunset. My heart pounded, a wild mix of joy, triumph, and a quiet ache that lingered from the past. Julian's arms were around me, his warmth steadying me, his dark eyes shining with love as my family gaped, their shock painted across their faces. Gina and Maria, my cousins, who'd called me undesirable and a ghost a year ago, stood frozen, their eyes wide with envy and regret. My mom sobbed, hugging me tight, her words a jumble. Emma, my baby, I'm so proud. My dad shook Julian's hand, still stunned, muttering, a helicopter. Accompany my girls, a force. Sophia, my sister, beamed, squeezing my arm. You're amazing, Em. The air buzzed with a new energy. Their judgment turned to awe, and I felt a radiant victory pulsing through me. I looked at Julian, my fiancé, the reclusive tech billionaire, who'd seen me when I felt invisible. His proposal, "Marry me, Emma, let's build a legacy together," still rang in my ears, the ring a sparkling promise on my finger. I'd said yes, my heart bursting, and now I stood taller, the girl in the yellow sundress, from that painful barbecue, a distant memory. I'd built Lumen, my mental health app now, at 5,000 users. Launched a foundation and partnered with Julian's company, my designs shaping his next big venture. The hurt from my cousin's words, the years of feeling less, hadn't vanished, but it was softer now, a scar I'd worn into strength. I clasped Nona Rosa's star necklace, its cool weight against my skin, a symbol of her belief, and felt ready to close this chapter. We lingered at the barbecue, the sky deepening to twilight stars peeking out. My family crowded around, questions flying. How'd you meet him, Emma? A tech company. I smiled, my voice steady. Julian saw my app at a conference, believed in me. We've been building together, Lumen, his projects, now a future. Julian chimed in. His hand in mine, Emma's brilliant. She's my partner in every way. My mom wiped tears, her pride raw. I didn't see it, honey. You're incredible. Gina and Maria hovered, their faces flushed. Gina spoke, her voice low. Emma, we were horrible. I'm so sorry. You're a star. Maria nodded. We were wrong. You've done so much. I looked at them, the pain they'd caused, still a quiet sting, and took a breath. I hear you, I said, my tone calm, my eyes steady. Last year your words broke. Made me doubt everything, but I learned something. My worth doesn't depend on your validation, or anyone's. I built Lumen, I fought for me, and I'm here with or without your approval. They looked down, shame in their eyes, and I felt a shift, not full forgiveness, not yet, but a release. I didn't need their regret to feel whole. Nona Rosa shuffled over her silver hair, glowing in the string lights, her smile wide. Cara mia, my star, she said, hugging me, her lavender scent wrapping around me. You've shown them all. I always knew. I leaned into her tears, pricking her love, a constant, my rock. Julian and I slipped away, walking to the field where the helicopter waited, its sleek shape a bold mark against the night. My family followed, still buzzing kids, wide-eyed uncles snapping photos. We climbed in the blades, whirring to life, and I looked out, my heart full. The backyard shrank below the picnic tables, the grill, the place where I'd once cried, feeling small. Now I was soaring literally, and beyond, Julian's hand in mine. He leaned close, his voice soft. You're my everything, Emma. This is just the start. I smiled, tears spilling, and kissed him, the world fading as we lifted into the sky, the stars above mirroring the one at my neck. Back in Boston, days later, I sat at my desk, Lumen's dashboard glowing 6,000 users. Now the foundation funding its first clinics. I wore the star necklace, a symbol of my journey, and a new piece, a tiny silver key, Julian gave me, after the proposal, whispering to our future, to every door we'll open. I traced it, my heart steady, and worked my team around me, ideas flying. The media buzzed Emma Russo Tech's heart-weds billionaire, builds empire, and I laughed, the girl my family underestimated, gone replaced by a woman who'd fought, risen, loved. I didn't forgive my cousins fully, not yet. The hurt lingered, a quiet reminder of my fire, but I didn't need to. I'd found my worth in Nona's faith, Julian's love, Lumen's impact, and my own heart. I stood looking out my window at the city lights twinkling like stars and felt peace. I was Emma, a dreamer, a fighter, a partner, and I was enough. I turned to my laptop, typing a message to my users. You are enough always. Let's keep building together. I hit send, the key, and star at my chest, a promise of hope, of growth, of a future mine to shape. I thought of that barbecue, the tears behind the house, and how far I'd come. I'd built a legacy, not for them, but for me, for everyone who felt unseen. Julian called, his voice warm. Ready to plan our next step, love, I grinned, my heart light. Always. The road ahead was open, uncertain, but mine, and I'd walk it with my head high, the star and key guiding me, symbols of a fight won, a life claimed. Have you ever found that peace, that moment where you knew your worth was yours alone? What symbol, a gift, a memory carries you forward, reminds you to keep going? I found mine, and I'm building, loving, soaring on my own terms.